So he then, he, of course, Gregor decides that he will particularly market to Scotsman because he knows that they're more likely to trust him.
They're my people.
That they're his people. And he sends 100 people across the Atlantic Ocean to the mythical capital of St. Joseph, which never existed. And they all get there, and then they start to die.
Right.
Bibi, would you like to fill us in?
Why are you leaving me with the depressing bits? Right.
Well,
So
I'm done with my accent.
Yeah. So he recruited a bunch of people to embark on the trip in the autumn of 1822 to make the scheme even more legitimate. His unsuspecting victims, including many esteemed professionals, were given the option of changing their pound sterling into Poyais dollars, of course printed by MacGregor himself. Right? So that's really painful. You're essentially taking real money and you're swapping it out for pieces of paper worth nothing, right? And still in heroic UK.com, it says a second ship followed.
Kind of like how Timothy Dexter did and then became very rich.
Well, the good thing is Timothy never conned anyone, which is good.
That's
right?
true.
So a second ship followed with another 200 settlers. 200. Who were dismayed to discover on their arrival a vast jungle with only natives for company and the poor and suffering passages of the previous voyage, right?
Also, apparently a lot of the passengers jumped to his defense, saying that,
that's the crazy thing. He must have been such a convincing con artist that even when the jig was up, his victims were defending him, saying no.
Yeah,
it's
they
not his
came
fault.
back to the UK and were like, no, it's the fault of the people, his team that was sent before and who were meant to be taking care of it. They obviously hadn't taken care of it.
Right.
And an entire city had disappeared.
It was the fault of the forerunners, right? It was the fault of the forerunners, the first party, and the lazy and disagreeable natives who had somehow, for some reason, contrary to what they expected, were not willing to be colonized. That is quite puzzling. That they wouldn't immediately want to be subservient. That's strange, Sibel, right? We need to dig deeper into that. I mean, who wouldn't want to be immediately, subjugated?
The moment someone shows up and says, this is now my land and you work for me, I'm all game.
I mean, it's a contract. Did they not know that they lived in this world where the British owned everything? Right? So, it's crazy how, in spite of being taken for fools, these fools were still defending the person who fooled them. It's ridiculous. Let's take another quick break here, and then we will come back to wrap this up on a humorous note. We'll tell you what happens with General Gregor MacGregor, the Prince of Poyais. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back, and we are still at this point, just shaking our heads at the hundreds of people who sailed over to the beautiful, beautiful, ready-made and waiting country of Poyais. Only to discover a jungle and natives who were probably looking at them like, who are these idiots?
Who are you?
Right. Yeah.
What are you doing here?
What are you doing here? What am I doing here? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? What do you mean, what am I doing here? What are you doing?
Can you imagine when they were like, where is the capital of St. Joseph? Have we landed in the wrong place? And they're like, what capital?
Yeah. Anyway, so he goes back to the UK and he comes under indictment for fraud. Sibel, you want to tell us in the finest Scottish accent what happens at this point?
I'll try to do justice, baby.
You'll try.
I'll try my best. 3 Britons were brought to trial.
Okay.
However, they had already started to run away in hideaway documents, and one of them didn't appear, specifically a Wahoobi. Apparently, MacGregor had a French lawyer who managed to convince the court that if there had been any conspiracy or any ill will,
I love his lawyer's name. His lawyer's name was Mary-Lou. Mary-Lou. Je suis Monsieur Mary-Lou.
Oh, that's great.
Sorry about that.
And
please continue.
No, not at all. This part's insane. MacGregor's lawyer. I'm quoting this. I'm quoting this from Wikipedia.
From
MacGregor's
Wikipedia.
Lawyer, a Frenchman called Mary-Lou asserted that if anything untoward had occurred, the missing managing director should be held culpable. Right. There was no proof of a conspiracy, he said, and MacGregor could have been himself defrauded by Wahoobi. The prosecutor conceded that there was insufficient evidence to prove his case. Complimented MacGregor for cooperating with the investigation fairly and openly, and withdrew the charges.
Right.
The three judges confirmed the defendant's release in, I quote, a full and perfect acquittal.
Right.
What?
Right. That's beautiful.
Oh,
That's
my
beautiful.
God.
That's beautiful. And
oh
so
my
this
God.
man was a Frenchman, right? So he was probably in court saying things like, look, I don't try to make any problems for you. I just, how you say, there's no case. Because my client, he could very easily have also been defrauded, right? He also suffered a lot of disappointment in this venture. He put his name on materials, thinking, of course, that he was going to be a government official. Now, if you would be so kind as to just let us go home, we can retreat and lick our wounds. Right? So that was the defense, essentially, is, look, my dude didn't do nothing. The MD is who you should be looking for, right? And the MD was pretty much everyone other than the MD
Gregor
was pretty
MacGregor.
much everyone other than Gregor MacGregor. So yeah, you know,
oh, man.
Yeah.
Fun fact: all three of them were then tried in France. And the lawyer Mary-Lou was not on the defense.
Now, why was
he was
Mary-Lou...
a witness? He was a witness for the prosecution.
Now, listen, I go wherever the bag is most heavy. How you say, bountiful? If you have a bag worthy of my expert opinion, either as a lawyer or as a witness, I will be there for you. If you don't, and you only have a bag full of fake Poyais dollars, you can count me out. Right?
Mary-Lou apparently is the lawyer to have this man managed to make both sides of the case.
Dude.
He gave the defense to his colleague,
Dude.
Breville, who got MacGregor off again in France.
Right.
So MacGregor went clean in France and England, thanks to Mary-Lou.
Yeah.
And Mary-Lou managed to be in both the prosecution and the defense on the French side.
Yeah.
Just insane.
Yeah. So, you know, after that second party of people landed, they saw there was nothing there. MacGregor ran away. He did a disappearing act. And back to the History UK website, it says, hiding across the English Channel in France, the unrepentant MacGregor repeated his scheme on an unsuspecting French population, managing this time to raise almost 300,000 pounds. Dude, 300,000 pounds today, and even more so at that time. Whew.
And by the way, it was after that he was tried by the French and found not guilty.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny how, it's funny how they put it here. It says, he was, however, destined to be foiled as the French authorities caught wind of a voyage destined to fail to a non-existent location and immediately seized the ship. So they were like, no, 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 you don't. No, you don't.
No, 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 no.
Oh my goodness. So, let's just wrap this up by saying, again, leaning heavily on the historic UK, article, it says it. In the coming decade, he carried on setting up schemes in London. So he was able to return to London, right? And he kept trying. He just would not give up, although not on such a grand scale. So he learned his lesson. It was like, look, this was too splashy. Maybe what we need is something more contained. So let's con a neighborhood at a time. Let's not try and con a whole country. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let's con like this, 2-3 blocks at a time. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Right?
Right.
So, yeah.
And then finally, he decides to return to Venezuela.
Where
he is received as a hero. As a hero,
rapturous hero's welcome.
Who helped liberate them. And when he passes away, he's buried with full military honors.
Full honors, man.
Full military honors as one of the liberators
at the age of 58,
of the nation.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be absolutely fair, right? I remember saying that in one other episode in the past. But no, to be fair, he did give a good account of himself. By all accounts, he was a reasonably big factor in the wars they'd fought, right? So yeah, I get why they had that perspective. They probably, again, thinking about how slowly
at one point, apparently,
spread.
him and Bolivar became the de facto leaders of the entire military side of the revolution.
Right. Exactly. Right. So, that's a national hero. There's no other way to put it, right? Yeah. And if you think also about how slowly news spread in that time, right? Some people in Venezuela might even never have heard about the things he had done in those other countries, right? Who knows? Who knows how connected things were, right?
But he was cleared on all accounts, right?
So exactly. Even if they heard, it would be like, look, they lied. This was not. Don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Not only was he found innocent in one country, he was found innocent in two.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah, man, he did something that was quite harebrained. I don't know what his plan was, and this is why this is so harebrained to me. Is what was the plan for when the people actually got there? What was that?
That confuses me. Why were the people going?
Yeah.
Why was
you
he
couldn't
letting
stall them?
Go?
You couldn't take some of their money and say, look, because of the weather and conditions at this time, you can't come until next year. And in that time, try to go there and put some semblance of a structure in place. You just let them travel to completely virgin, jungle with nothing.
Well, he never went back to that region, which is also nuts. He made all this money and never went back there.
Right.
He never went back there. I wonder at what point legally it stopped being his land.
Right. Because that's the messed up part is he had legally, he had the rights to this land. Now, we can talk about the morality of it. Was it the king's land to give out in the first place? There were indigenous peoples living there, but again, by the standards of the day.
The king was indigenous, though.
Right. Okay. Right. So by the standard of the day, he had legal claims to that land. He could have set up something there if he'd been more honest about the state of the place, right?
But he was aware that there was nothing that could be done there. There was no agriculture.
Well,
possibly,
so he could have at least established it as some sort of port, some sort of place. You set up some infrastructure for the docking of ships and stuff. Make it so that you kind of have to dock there on your way to somewhere else if necessary. You know what I mean? Like there were options, right? He had coastal land. Come on, you could have done at least something, right? But he did absolutely nothing. So.
He just wanted to get back into high society.
Yeah. So that's your
and-
boy, Gregor MacGregor.
And the con worked.
And it worked.
The con worked.
It worked. He did not see a day of jail time. At least not that I know of, right? So,
No.
yeah.